Welcome to Game Changers Live from Miami, Florida. My name is Sergio Tigera. I'm your host. And each and every week, we bring you someone who has been a game changer in their field and who's touched the lives of thousands to get their perspective on their journey, their mindset, their struggles and successes so that we can inspire you on your journey. So let's get started right now. All right. Welcome to Game Changers, everyone. My name is Sergio Tigera, and we're live here from Miami, Florida with our special guest on here, Frankie Ruiz. How are you, brother?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Nice to see you, Serge.
Hey, great having you on, man. So for everybody out there, Frankie is the chief running officer at Lifetime, and he's a co-founder of one of Miami's signature destination events, of course, the Miami Marathon. I'm a big fan of that. I've been doing it for years, and so have thousands of others. So over the last 18 years, this event has infused over $200 million into the local economy. Many in Miami said they couldn't support a marathon. He said he's very proud to say that they've been able to prove that theory wrong. But running in Miami and the rest of the U.S. is alive and growing rapidly, as we know. And much of that is credited to the success of the endurance destination events like the Miami Marathon and events associated with Lifetime. So enhancing Miami's quality of life through participant sport events is most certainly one of his continuous objectives. Frankie's a cross-country coach at Belen, where he's led the team to 10 state championships and one Southeast National Regional Nike title. And his other passion is around creating what has become the world's largest weekly free run club, the Baptist Health Brickell Run Club, powered by Nike. And that run club is now part of a group of 8 run clubs in the South Florida area. So great to have you on, brother.
Thank you, man. Long time.
Yeah. So Frankie and I actually went to college together at FIU, and many of you guys know him from FIU back in the days. And he's done some amazing things since then. And so let's get into this, Frankie. I know that, one of your success stories is obviously the Miami Marathon. And I want to talk a little bit about that, but I want to get into the stories behind the success, right? Because this is about your journey, not only your successes, but your struggles, your doubts, kind of what was going through your mind when you guys decided to take on this project of the Miami Marathon. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, look, Miami's got a special place in my heart. I've been taught since a very young age to love it, and falling in love with the city kind of led me to this idea. And I think along the way, I've learned more about Miami and learned more about Miami's history and stuff, but I wanted to make sure I was part of that history in a meaningful way. And so initially, getting this little monster off the ground, it was, obviously it has its challenges as any entrepreneur might have, but it definitely turned into a journey that led to where we're at now. But the race started off rather modest. Someone was reminding me the numbers the other day were in the 3,000 range, and this past year had, or I should say 2020 had close to 22,000 plus when you throw in the 5K, the half, and the full.
Wow.
So it's a whole weekend. But yeah, we started this thing off, I don't want to say not knowing what we were doing, but just, kind of coming into it, that it was going to be something we were going to grow long-term and learn as we went along. And we were forced to learn rather quickly. But here we are 18 years later. And I think it's been a catalyst for a number of changes in Miami.
So the thing that you never know when you start off a project like this is that you don't know what you don't know. And a lot of times I think we go into it with a bit of naivete, thinking that, all right, if I haven't thought about it, probably can't happen. And now we look at, COVID and everything else like that. What were some of these struggles or these roadblocks that you hit that you didn't see coming along the way?
Yeah, I mean, my memory is not the greatest, so I'm not gonna recall the sleepless nights, but certainly, I think overall the theme that resonated out there was that Miami just couldn't support a signature major city distance running event, such as a half or full marathon of this size or of this magnitude. And so I think that was sort of an underlying current that we were fighting constantly, where the reasons we were given were it's too hot, people don't care, it's a fair weather town, they're not going to support running athletes, it's not a place that's been kind to its previous marathons in the 70s and 80s, where government ended up being a non-supporter eventually. So there was a ton of hurdles that we identified early on, and we knew we had to do certain things. So, for instance, on the government side, I made sure that my relationships and the trust I had built over a short period of time in some of these leaders at the time, mayors and even state reps and commissioners, that I wanted their support so that we can close down 26.2 miles of roads. It was actually after Bad Boys filming that it was frowned upon to close any kind of road. So we had to, kind of overcome that one challenge, and we did so. We did it, by creating a coalition of homeowners association groups, charities, and other groups that were associated with the event that first year, to convince them, hey, this is a short-lived time. We're going to do it on a Sunday morning. And they, after that first year, I think they started to really trust us. And then the other major hurdle, like I said, was the heat. It was telling the world that Miami is a cool place in January. The word cool can be taken two different ways, but it's certainly not, who knows these days, but we're not going to have snow in January, but it's also not 98 degrees and,
right,
humid. So it was our coolest, driest month, and we had to get the word out there. So everything from the way our marketing was positioned, making sure we didn't put too many photos of beaches, the colors, all that stuff was very well thought out to make sure that people didn't see heat in Miami. And then I guess the last challenge, I mentioned there was two, but the third challenge was that Miami's running culture locally still was not fully connected and maybe fully, not that it is fully developed yet, but there wasn't a nurturing ecosystem that we knew we had to create.
I mean, back then it wasn't really a thing. People weren't out running all the time, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a thing in other cities. As many things land here a little later, or we decide whether or not we're going to take them in as Miamians. Running was just not one of those things that we were embracing at the mass scale that some of these other major cities around the world were embracing. And so to change that, we introduced some smaller, well-run, professionally organized 5Ks, a series of even as high as a 15K that we had at one time, just giving reasons for people to train and stay engaged all year long. Because at the end of the day, we're not just selling people one day. It's real easy. I'm not gonna say it's real easy, but if I invite you to a one-day event, that's one thing. But if I tell you that you've got to spend 18 weeks getting ready for that one-day event, you might think about it twice. So that took, some motivation, and part of that was creating events surrounding the Miami Marathon.
And you have to pay, $100 or $150 so you can train 18 weeks for that. That's one.
Right. Yeah, you need a training plan, you need a coach, all those things. So we worked with a lot of groups here locally throughout the years, to kind of do what we can to support their efforts, help them with their numbers, get their word out. And thankfully, there's still some of these same groups that started off 18 years ago training for the Miami Marathon, still putting those folks at the start lines of races all around Miami and beyond. I mean, Footworks is one of those that was back, around 18 years ago, and they're still around getting people to start lines. Team FDC is another one. There's quite a few. Runners Depot up in Broward, and these groups really they're small businesses. So that was the other thing. Like we didn't want to come across as being some big, giant here. So we knew we had to bring up these small businesses with us.
So you've been running your entire life, basically, right? I mean, you've been running since you were in probably middle school or high school. What got you into running? Like, what is it about running? What does running do for you?
So I've been running since I was I just picked an age. I think it was 10, and let's just call it that. And I got my dad to thank for that, where he just invited me to go out on a run with him. And I kind of never looked back after that. I was just like, oh, this is cool. And I think what attracted me most to it is how different it was from what every other kid was doing. Even though I played soccer and I did all those things, I think it pulled me because of that. And so I think what I still enjoy about it is that I still think that there's enough difference in it, in that you can make it different than someone else. In other words, if somebody goes out on a 5-mile run this morning, his experience is going to be entirely different from your 5-mile run, right? Like, you're still doing the same activity, but you might do it in a different place at a different pace with different people. So it's still different. You can make it as different as the person next to you. In fact, that person could be running the same course, the same day and whatnot, and it's still a different experience from your vantage point. So I like that. And then I guess the other thing that kind of keeps me in it really is just the social aspect of it. I think it's cool that, this morning, actually, I turned down one of my close friends' invite, which I rarely do. If anybody ever wants to get a yes for me, just invite me on a run. It's not that I'm obsessed over running. It's just that I do enjoy the company of someone while we're sweating and kind of exploring different parts of Miami. But I turned down my friend this morning, and it reminded me, how much I like, the social side of things, because I'm still going to run this afternoon, but I just couldn't do it this morning. So, yeah.
All right. So whoever wants to go on a run today, call Frankie. He'll go out and spend his entire day running with you guys.
Yeah, almost the entire day. But yeah, I'll run, especially if you got like a cool area I haven't been to. I think it's one of those ways that you can explore where you live.
And on that note, though, so exploring where you live, when you run and you're actually going somewhere, I don't like running on a treadmill because I feel like I'm not going anywhere. I'm not seeing anything differently. Like, I feel like I'm not accomplishing anything. And so when you run out in your community, like you said, you're seeing things from a different point of view that you would probably have missed driving by. And there's so many great places to run in South Florida and have that bond with somebody else where you can get those juices flowing. You start coming up with ideas, start thinking creatively because of that mind-body connection that there is.
Yeah, no, to the person that hates where they live, I tell them, go out and run. One, you're going to obviously realize that certain things are not, as good as they could be. You might see some trash on the ground. Hopefully you pick it up. But more importantly, I think we have a natural tendency to be connected to our outdoors. Whether you live in the most nature-filled environment or a concrete jungle, we have this innate need to be outside, I think. And so if you want a healthy mind and a body to follow, I think you got to put those outdoor elements in there. And I think some of my best ideas have come after I've run, some during, but mostly after, where I just feel like I cleaned out the system. Got the circulation going and the heart rate up and it just like I heard someone say the other day, I'm like, no one ever, I forget exactly how they said it, but they said, no one ever finishes their run and says, man, that was a mistake. Exactly. Even when you run too fast or too far, you always feel like you did something that helped you and took care of your needs at that moment.
Absolutely. Yeah. Whenever I go run, it's definitely a release. I come back, I'm a lot more calm, collected, thinking more clearly. And I don't know about you, but because the juices are flowing, I'm listening to podcasts, I'm listening to books, and it's just like it absorbs like a sponge. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. I run with the high school kids for about 6 months of the year with the Belen cross country team, and they kick my butt. I gotta be careful how I say I run with them. I run a little bit with them, and then the rest of the time they leave me behind. But yesterday, for instance, I was on a 9 or 10 mile run with them, and I running with them. They run with a speaker, right? Like, they actually run with music in their hand. This UE Boom. Speaker, and they were listening to Guns N' Roses and some things that were were a little shocking that they listened to, but in terms of old school music. But that's the only time that I'll run with music. The rest of the time, I will probably listen to a podcast or something like what you get on here, and it really just kind of sinks in better than if I was just sitting in my car in traffic. It just, I don't know, I connect better with it, especially if it's related. In my case, I love to just listen to running and business related things. So if it's related to something you do on a regular basis, it just stays in there. Entertainment wise, like I'm not one to listen to maybe nonfiction or something like that on a run, but there's people that enjoy that. So I think my wife, for instance, she loves to listen to reggaeton. For me, that's entertainment. Like I don't connect as well with it in my ear while I'm running. Not that I don't like reggaeton, it just doesn't get me in that state of mind. Yeah, so, I mean the pace. Yeah.
One of the purest forms, I think, of mind-body connection is running. There's also swimming, like we talked about a few days ago. But there's really something important, and running is your mind is on the pulse of your body, right? I mean, it's feeling it, right? It's driving your mindset and everything else. When the 4-minute mile was broken back in the early 60s, late 50s, it was considered impossible for somebody to break a 4-minute mile. And once it was broken, then it just like the floodgates opened up. Tell me about the mental toughness that is developed with your runners in Belen, for example. How do you train that?
Look, I think there's a misnomer out there that running is mental, right? That it's all mental. Maybe even in my early days as a coach, people would say running is so mental. It's just mental. And the first few years as a coach, I would say, you guys got to be tougher, and you got to put your mind to it. You got to focus. And then I started to realize that there needed to be training that would back up your sort of fortitude and your your mindset. And so I think, what's that?
You can't wing it. You can't go and go run a marathon.
And I think that applies a lot to life, right? Like I can sit here and say all I want, that hey, it's mindset, and you got to say yes to everything, or you gotta be focused. And I say, that's all great to say and put up on your wall and everything, but if you don't have the work to back it up, and you've got nothing, you've got no confidence that you can actually make it happen. So my kids have this week, the high school kids, they've got their state meet this Saturday. Leading up to, we've done enough goal oriented work that tells them that they can put 1 and 2 together and come out with 3 and so forth. So just sitting in a room saying that you could do it, it's only going to take you so far. Yeah. So the mindset there is, even in business, is one that you've got to build confidence a little bit at a time, so that when it does come down to delivering the product or the service, or in this case, in my case was delivering a race, that it all came together because you did all the work leading up to. And I'm in the event business, and if you didn't do the work prior, it's going to show on event day, when you have your less than perfect showing. And most of the time it's going to be a little less than perfect, but the more work you do before, the more confident you can kind of push through that mental, as they say, that mental barrier.
So we're on with Frankie Ruiz, Chief Running Officer at Lifetime and co-founder of the Miami Marathon here on Gamechangers Live. And so one of the things that Dr. Carol Dweck talks about in her book, and it's called Mindset. Talk about the difference between growth and fixed mindsets, where fixed mindsets feel like they're just born this way. I can't get any better. I am who I am. Growth mindset people are infatuated, in love with the process of growth. And so putting more emphasis on the grind, on the process, on the training, loving that part of it, as opposed to putting too much weight on the result. Because the race, is one day, right? But you're training, like you said, for 18 weeks, a year. Sure. You could be training. And so you really got to love the training, not so much the race. The race will just take care of itself, right?
Right. Yeah, I think too many of us train to race, and not enough of us train to train. I don't want to become a professional practice runner either, and not that I'm going to become a professional runner, but I don't want to be good at just training, right? I don't want to be good at just, rehearsing and going through the motions. I actually want to perform. And I think the more you pay attention to the process and the more you analyze what you're doing, making sure you're doing the little things right, and that you're being aware, you're self-aware of what that effort looks like, and that it's something you do consistent, then the actual outcome is that much better or closer to what your desire, your goal is. But definitely, I think that runners embody just that. I mean, athletes in general, like, they understand that or the good ones or the great ones understand it's a little bit at a time, that it requires a lot of great work to be great, right? And it's very cliche and so forth, the process, but the secret is in the process, not just game day. I think that all too often, when we say that people choke on game day or choke on race day, it's probably because they just didn't perform. They didn't train the right way to train. And that training, in the case of runners, is long training blocks. It's a period of time where you're basically grinding and working hard in a smart way. But there really is no shortcut. I mean, I love the sport because you can't roll out of bed and be great at it.
Yeah.
And I think that's for the most part, life, right?
Exactly. So, Frankie, who has been a game changer in your life as you've grown up? Was there an inflection point that really just catapulted you, your confidence, was it an event or something that happened in your life that was a game changer, that really lit a fire under you and just, help your confidence, help your career take off? Tell me a little bit about that.
I mean, there's been a couple moments. I actually believe in that it doesn't hit you right off the bat, just one moment. Like, I'm one of those that I think you need to kind of hear it in a few different places to really direct your career, or direct your business, or direct your your whatever you might want to study or whatnot. I think it's a little bit more than just one moment. So I look back at a couple places. One is there was a writer at my high school for the newspaper that wrote an article on me, and here's the kicker. I wasn't the fastest runner on the team, but in his mind, I was what embodied a runner and an athlete. So the headline read, Frankie runs for his life, and I thought, what, that's actually pretty cool. Like, it's really not about being the fastest. It was just, that I was going to have some element of running in my life. Did I know I was going to go and start a marathon? No. So that was one kind of game-changing moment. After that, the next one was probably during Hurricane Andrew. And I shouldn't say necessarily during the hurricane, but after the cleanup. We had all this garbage piled up in front of our house, and my neighbor and I were like, well, why don't we, because that obviously Hurricane Andrew hit in the summer, and Halloween was around the corner. And after so many weeks of not going to school and all that stuff, and so we got all this garbage and decided that we were going to turn it into a haunted house. And when I kind of organized this haunted house for the first time, I didn't realize that it was going to be the beginning of my sort of production life, or my event planning life. I loved promoting people to show up to a place. And now I've applied that to whether it's a run club or to a race, or to anything for that matter. I love crowds, obviously, pandemic aside. Yeah. So I've got to wait a little bit, but I love kind of just putting people together. And I remember looking at that moment at the line. There was a line of 1,000, maybe not 1,000, exaggerating, but maybe a few hundred people lined up in front of my parents' house waiting to get into this haunted house. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life, whether it's haunted houses or something. So there was that moment. And then along the way, it's just been a lot of reassuring, moments that either people have suggested this is what you should be doing for a living, or this is what you like. And so I think even now I still look for those moments to keep reassuring that this is where I want to stay in.
I love it, man. Frankie, dude, you've been part of the Miami community. You're a staple here. You're one of Miami's favorites, and you contribute so much to the community, not only through your events, but you also help out the community, and you're helping making that ecosystem in Miami possible for runners, which is so fantastic, man. Congratulations for everything you've done, brother. It's good to see you again. Hey, where can people reach out to you? And by the way, you guys just put together a fabulous race, which was probably one of my favorite races, was the runway race at MIA. And for those of you who are out there, I swear to God, I felt like Tom Cruise in Top Gun minus.
You look like Tom Cruise right now. You look like Tom Cruise right now.
Minus the motorcycle.
The headphones and everything.
It was so cool. Such a cool race, running on the runway. Tell me quickly about that before we wrap up.
Yeah, man. So that was an event I was asked to be a part of. It was an event that had been in the makings for a long time. Again, like I've said before, it's fun to take running where you don't typically see it. And Miami International Airport was one of those willing venues that said okay during the pandemic. Hey, this is a big space and we can make this happen out here. It hadn't been done in the history of the airport. And there's other airport races around the country, but they're, again, back to what Miami was missing. We didn't have this signature 5K or any kind of endurance sport on what I think is one of the nicest airports in the country, or if not the world. And so locking down that runway was historic. Obviously air travel's down a little bit, but you still had, I heard somebody that ran the race. I don't know how fast he did it, but he counted 9 planes taking off during his race. So I think the slower, the better. You would have seen that many, but that was important, I think, for a couple of reasons. One, it allowed for, our airport to be featured. And at the same time, it allowed us to sort of break the seal that events can come back in a safe manner to Miami-Dade County and South Florida. And we were happy to be part of that initial sort of reopening of running. And I look forward to more opportunities. And if I will, I encourage you guys to stick to some of the virtual stuff that's out there. The Miami Marathon, Lifetime Miami Marathon virtual race is another one that I think will keep us in the spirit of running. So I know I saw a lot of people at the runway race saying, hey, I'm getting ready for that one. So you got a half, a full, or a 5K that you can be a part of through the Lifetime Miami Marathon.
All right. Frankie Ruiz, Chief Running Officer at Lifetime and co-founder of the Miami Marathon. Keep it going, my brother.
Thank you, man. We'll see you soon. Be safe. Right. Don't stop.
If you loved what you heard in today's episode of Game Changers, please subscribe and rate us. The lessons and the stories in these podcasts are immensely valuable, so I invite you to share them with a friend who needs to hear it. You may end up being the game changer in their lives.